Hello everyone, welcome back to Lab4crypto. Bitcoin is moving sideways for the past 3 months, and altcoins had a recent big drop, which made the crypto market starting to question in itself. We have people that think that Bitcoin top was already back in December, and also that we are not going to have an altcoin season. It's not going to be something similar to previous cycles. And I wanted to make this video to address these fears and tell you what I think about what's going to happen into the market. And just spoiler alert, I still think it's going to be an altcoin season, and I still think Bitcoin will go to 180K and more in 2025 or early 2026. And I will explain why in a bit. Recently, I wrote an article which the title is Focus on Bitcoin and Altcoin Season Will Come. We're going to have a quick skip through it. We'll see what I said, and I'm going to elaborate more and go in more in depth in this video why I think altcoin season is still going to come and why I think Bitcoin will go to these higher prices. So first, let's say, what is altcoin season? For people that are new to the market, basically is when altcoins outperform Bitcoin. So in short, we have this metric, which basically if you click will take you to the interactive plot. And in short, when we have this red line above the purple one, that means that the top 50 cryptocurrencies, excluding stablecoins, are outperforming Bitcoin. So the ROI from altcoins is more than of that of Bitcoin. So you will see that actually that period happens only around 3 to 5 months in each cycle. And usually we have the in-between area, which basically it's not clearly in Bitcoin season or an altcoin season. And when we are below the green line, we are clearly in Bitcoin season. However, you will see that we're now in let's say in a situation where a lot of people think that altcoin season should come. That is why we are more persistent this time to bring altcoins to lower valuations and kick off the altcoin season and the bull run that everybody wants. Because do not forget that Bitcoin at least is in a bull run from November 2022 when reached its bottom at 16K, and now we are almost at 100K. But of course, as I said, I still believe that Bitcoin has one more 2x to do in 2025 at the end, most likely. And this is what I am saying for more than a year. But with a bit delay from the quantitative tightening that we are having from the Fed, and I will explain in a bit what that is, maybe we will see it in the beginning of 2026, we will see. But my point is that we are still going to have an altcoin season, but when the conditions allow it. So when this red line goes above the purple line, we are officially in the altcoin season region. And that happens when Bitcoin dominance is starting to go down, which means that people are rotating capital from Bitcoin to altcoins. And of course, that FOMO brings new people into the market because they want to take some of that market share with the expectation to have these huge gains, which usually leads to the top of the market, and then we have the crash. Let's go to the article, and then I will come back. Basically, what I said before about Bitcoin dominance, usually what we see is that Bitcoin dominance reaching values above 60%. And then when we have the start of the altcoin season, you will see Bitcoin dominance going down. This is this red line, and you will see we have a sharp drop when we have altcoins outperforming Bitcoin. And you will see, for example, in 2021, Bitcoin basically reached its top of in dominance in January, and then we had Bitcoin drop between January and May and gave room to altcoins to shine and move to higher values. And this usually coincides with business cycle, liquidity cycles, which allows altcoins to move to these higher valuations because there is enough liquidity to support them. And let's go back to the graph so you'll see what I mean. For example, this is the price of Bitcoin, but we can see also with Ethereum. So you'll see that Ethereum started its 2021 bull run when the quantitative tightening stopped and we had the start of quantitative easing. So it's when there is capital injected into the markets from the Federal Reserve. And this method is usually performed from multiple central banks around the world. It's not only the US. Usually we had China start doing the quantitative easing. Then we have major economies like the US, the Europe, Canada, and so on, which they follow the same strategy. And that coincides with the 4-year cycle that we say about Bitcoin. And that is why I think we have this repetition in Bitcoin cycles. I don't know for how long that will last, but definitely I think we have a couple of more cycles to be more like the previous ones before we diverge from this scenario. So now you will see that Ethereum had a price of $93 when we had the start of the quantitative easing. So it's when the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve is expanding. And in short, here is when the yellow line is going up. And you will see that it moved from $91 all the way up to almost 5K. Now, after the beginning of the bear market in November 2021, which basically we had a 1 year solid of bear market, which the bottom was in November 2022 in short, and in January depending on the asset. But the point is, sorry, June here, but my point is that when we see this yellow line going down, what it means that the Fed is tightening the economy because, as we said, Fed, the tool that they have to counter the inflation in almost all countries is to increase the interest rates and use the quantitative tightening tool. And when they want to increase the growth in the economy, they lower the interest rates and they start the quantitative easing. So now we had the Fed release, the Fed minutes release, and basically they said that they're planning to conclude their quantitative tightening in mid-2025, which for me, this is good news. It doesn't mean that immediately they will start quantitative easing, but at least they will stop strangling the economy, let's say. So this line is expected to go flat from, let's say, June, July of this year. That's good news because at least that is a paradigm shift. So this line is not, it's going to stop going down, and at least we're going to see a plateau. So that is why it's important for us, because I expect to have the Fed to also lower interest rates and also stop the quantitative easing. That's good news for the economy, because also do not forget that altcoins are mainly driven from retail people and not institutions. And what that means is that when retail has available liquidity to allocate in any place, some of them are going to end up in the crypto market. And usually because they're going to think that Bitcoin is too expensive when they come into the market, they're going to move to altcoins. And actually, this is the simplest way to tell you that I still believe that we're going to have an altcoin season, but we need the liquidity to sustain an altcoin season. Because when we tried in November to have an altcoin season, it only lasted for a week. So you'll see this red line went above the purple one for only a week. And then we went down because we didn't have the liquidity to sustain this run. So going back to the article, what I tell to the people that also are in our premium channel, which they can see what moves we're making, I said that in any way to have an altcoin season, we need either of these three conditions: the end of the quantitative tightening and lower interest rates, the approval of Bitcoin strategic reserve, or either Bitcoin sustaining prices above 115K, for example, which that will allow and give some room to altcoins to move to higher values. So in the end, if you think about it, everything, at least not everything, the last two parts, let's say, are based on Bitcoin price. So instead of you trying to time when altcoins are going to start moving to the other direction and not keep bleeding, because basically for the last 3 years, altcoins are bleeding against Bitcoin. So in short, if you had Bitcoin for the last 3 years, you are in a much better position than having altcoins. And I'm speaking about the majority of them. Of course, there are some altcoins that outperform Bitcoin, but I'm speaking about the vast majority of them, which they are they had a very poor ROI compared to Bitcoin. And you can check basically also for people that they want to check that, you can go to the crypto vs crypto chart. And when you see this blue line going up, when you compare in Bitcoin with any asset, that means that for you, holding Bitcoin was a better idea than just holding the asset which is in the second column. And for example, you will see, I'm just picking random coins here. You will see that most of them had the same graph. Bitcoin had a better performance than altcoins. Going back to my point is that if for you and if for us, we know that Bitcoin is the main driver of the upcoming altcoin season, why we don't focus on Bitcoin? Of course, here in the channel, we were focused on Bitcoin from much lower values. But my point for people that they are overexposed to altcoins and they are freaking out, instead of trying to adding and trying to catch a knife to your position, and because you think that now is the time that it's going to be reversed, it's better to step back, focus on Bitcoin, find key accumulation levels, which is going to help you also reduce some damage on your portfolio and reduce some risk. And when the time comes, if you want to be all in on altcoins, just rotate your capital from Bitcoin to altcoins. Because do not forget that Bitcoin leads altcoin seasons. You will see first Bitcoin run to a certain value, and then altcoins coming after Bitcoin reach a certain value, usually a local top. So for me, what I said to people is that I'm focusing more on Bitcoin. I still have a basket of altcoins, which basically is around 15% of my portfolio. And I'm just focusing on Bitcoin because I know that Bitcoin needs to go to higher values before we move to an altcoin season. And just let's make a thought experiment. For example, I don't know, Bitcoin risk today is at 39.8%, which in bull runs that it's great value. Of course, this is not financial advice. This is based on our unique algorithm. And the main point is that if I know that Bitcoin is to move to higher values, and let's say Bitcoin now is 95K, just I'm rounding up the numbers, and I know that it needs to go to 120 or 115 to have an altcoin season, I'm just gonna ride the Bitcoin train, and when I feel that it's time for me to move to altcoins, I can rotate capital to altcoins. It is no point for me to put myself in excessive risk trying every time to identify when it's going to be the altcoin season. And every time we will see that we are trying to go, we see the red line move toward the purple one, and people starting to think that this is the start of the altcoin season, and then we haven't dropped. And this happens again and again. And what it does in the end, it's damaging your portfolio. Recently, I had a message in our Telegram, which basically someone said that the biggest flex is that now then they had the drop in recently that we had the drop in the market. They didn't manage to feel the pain when altcoins dropped that significantly because their portfolio was more on Bitcoin, and therefore they didn't feel the drop from altcoins. And therefore, when you have this significant volatility on altcoins, because in the end we have the speculation about meme coins, we have the narratives, which basically there is not enough liquidity to sustain these values, and you become the exit liquidity for them. So if you are not sure that this is the start of the altcoin season, there is no point for you to put yourself in excessive risk, except if you spend many hours on a project, you study that project well, you understand the technology well, and therefore, if it goes down, you don't care. It's like when Warren Buffett said that when a stock is going down and he studied that stock and he feels sure about the stock, he feels excited because he can accumulate more. But when you freak out, that means that you don't know that asset, and you starting to freak out because it's going down, and you know it back in your head that these assets are very speculative, and then is why you're starting to say that it's not going to be an altcoin season, we are ruined, and all that. The point is that altcoin season will come, but not when you want it, but when the general conditions and the economic conditions allow it. If we go and check the ROI of Bitcoin, which, as I said, we need to check Bitcoin all the time because it's going to be the main driver of the altcoin season. So that's why you need to understand Bitcoin. And in the end, if you decide to move rotate some capital from Bitcoin to altcoins, you will do it because you want to increase your risk tolerance. For example, this cycle, which is the red line, you will see that we are following very closely the cycle of 2017. So now I want to start see Bitcoin moving to a bit higher values as we move into Q2 of 2025, because that is going to give us like a blueprint to understand more in which cycle Bitcoin looks more alike, the 2017 or the 2021. The 2021, which we had the double top, it seems that we are not going to have something like that. But of course, we are only 2 months in 2025. But it seems that we are moving more similar to 2027, which basically is the blue line. And the same is when we compare it peak to peak, you will see that now we are in between 2021 and 2017, which in short for me, it shows that Bitcoin is doing what it's supposed to do. There is not something extraordinary, it's not something different. You will see that the lines are basically between the the last two cycles, because I didn't want to check the first two ones where Bitcoin had these amazing runs, which basically it happened because it was so small in market cap. So just a small volume could skyrocket its ROI. And Bitcoin, the last cycles, let's say, it's becoming more and more mature. And therefore, it's better for us to compare it from 2017, let's say, and onwards. Now, if we want to see the sentiment in the market now, it's basically really, really bad. You will see that the interest over time that we have now, it's basically when Bitcoin was at 60K, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see. Yeah, so when Bitcoin was 68, 67K, and therefore, for me, that's a good sign, to be honest, to have Bitcoin close to 100K, and we don't have many people interested that much in Bitcoin in the crypto market. We are starting to see the fear and greed index drop to the fear side, which that also it's good because usually we need a reset. We need people to start to remove this FOMO and go this and try to over leverage themselves. And that is why we see these volatile moves in the crypto market, because people are becoming too greedy and therefore the market usually flush them out. So to sum up my video, which, as I said, I wanted to be short because nothing is changed from the strategy that we are doing. And what I'm doing basically is that every time I see Bitcoin to be in these low risk levels, and even so, even closer to its bull market support band, which currently is at, let's say, 90K, I'm going to accumulate. Of course, this is not financial advice. This is what I'm doing, as I think it's a good opportunity for what is coming in later in 2025. And of course, I'm going to rotate also some of my capital to altcoins when the time comes, because I will allow myself to increase its risk tolerance and be able to move to riskier assets, which I know that they are good projects. They have at least a promise behind them, and it's not just speculation and memes and this kind of stuff. And then, as everyone, I'm going to take some profits off the table and be prepared on what is coming in the next cycle for Bitcoin. That is why it's important for you to know and have a strategy on what you want to do, know the levels that you want to exit the market, know how much risk you can withstand in your portfolio, because there is going to be a point where the risk, for example, is at 80 and 90%, and therefore it's good for you to prepare an exit strategy and just don't wait forever to take some profits. And as always, the market is going to have a correction and see your gains going to be vanished. So it's important for you to watch what whales are doing, what sophisticated people are doing with their money, and be able to understand how this market works. Because in the end, this market is really small. All the crypto market worth just one company in the Nasdaq, for example. All millions of coins that we have in the crypto market is just the worth of Nvidia, for example, the stock. So that is why it's important for you to understand this market, because definitely has huge potential. But on the other side, if you don't know what you're doing, it's going to be scary. So I hope you like the video. Please give us a thumbs up and leave a comment. And until next time, bye-bye.